el exec, el Vele, el fenómeno que todos quieren ser, el chamaquito que no pueden entender.
How we doing, guys? How we doing? Episode 79 of The Exec Talk, formerly El Boricua El Parcero podcast. I'm your host, El Velez, and we are here, back at it again. Little housekeeping things here and there. I like the love that you guys have shown on YouTube and on my Instagram and everything like that. I appreciate it. We're going to keep it coming. We're going to keep it rolling hot. Now, a couple of things that has happened this past week from basketball, NASCAR. We have some La Liga news with Kylian Mbappe, trying to get that through finally. And the NFL, of course, we got the Super Bowl this week. The Pro Bowl was okay. It was like you can, at this point, it's a laughing stock. What they're doing out there. I like the skills challenges personally more than anything with the flag football game or anything like that, to be honest. Like, I'd rather watch the passing or the best catch. You know, that's more entertaining to me than the actual flag football game. I think they just lost the essence of what the Pro Bowl was ever since that Sean Taylor hit. They wanted not people to get hurt and people to go all out, and that's what happens. You know, you just send them to a vacation location for them to go with their families, and they enjoy themselves. They get recognized as Pro Bowlers, and that's it. You know, surprised that Fred Warner was there from the 49ers. I would expect him to be with the team, but he decided to go. Ufanga went, but then again, he's hurt, so he's not going to play in the Super Bowl, so he can go. But, yeah, that was surprising to see Fred Warner there. Usually you don't see people that are going to the Super Bowl there. Pat wasn't there. I don't think anybody of the Chiefs were there, to be honest. So, interesting. The first order of business that we got is that Kliff Kingsbury instead, so remember last week we said, he's going to get hired as the Raiders. What are they going to do with Aiden O'Connell and anything like that? Well, unfortunately, it looks like, unfortunately for the Raiders, if you want to look at it that way, but we're going to talk about who they hired next after this. Kliff and the Raiders were supposed to be OC and team. That was supposed to be the pairing, but what happened was a dispute happened between the amount of years the contract was going to be Kliff. He wanted, which is what I've been told, what I've heard is the normal going rate for OCs and DCs, just 3 years is the contract. They wanted to give him 2. Kliff wanted 3. They couldn't agree. And then so that deal falls through, and then immediately the Commanders hop on Kliff Kingsbury's back, sign him to a 3-year deal as their OC. And now Kliff Kingsbury is their OC. So what's interesting about this is that the Washington Commanders presumably need a quarterback. And I say presumably because you never know in this league whether they're going to stick with Sam Howell or go get a quarterback. Now, this doesn't mean that somehow, some way, you know, the Bears are just going to pass up Caleb Williams and then they could, you know, the Washington Commanders could take him at 2. That's not what's going to happen. I don't think that Caleb falls from 1. If the Bears trade that pick another player, I think they'll be kicking themselves for years, in my honest opinion. However, anything is possible, and Washington being there at the 2 spot, it's either if Caleb doesn't get taken, then Caleb will get taken, and then he'll work with Kliff again, like he did at USC this past year, or they'll take Drake May or Jaden Daniels. That's the 3 right now. We haven't gotten to Combine yet, where we will see these guys' raw numbers and running and how they pass in, you know, kind of controlled environment, but the arm strength and can they hit an out route? Can they hit a toe tap? And, you know, same thing with these receivers. It's all hyped up because, there's a lot of hype that comes off the tape. But at the same time, we don't understand how much the combine plays a part in these decisions. Some more for teams than others. Some people, some teams live and die by the combine. Other people, is a combination of tape. Other people, decide on the tape more. I think it's a combination of both, but I would definitely look at the tape a little bit more just because that's actual in-game football. The combine is good for measurements, explosiveness, a little bit of projection, a little bit of potential when it comes to speed with the 40, vertical, explosiveness, broad jump, 3-cone with agility, the gauntlet for wide receivers, smoothness of hips and transitioning, tracking ball ability, the drills for the safeties and corners, the transition in hips and cuts, kick set for the for offensive linemen, D linemen, bend, stuff that's important, but at the same time, like, you want to see it in tape. That's where everything comes together. Now, moving on to the Kliff Kingsbury hire, I think it's going to be a more wide open offense. This kind of makes up a little bit, so I got to give him a little bit of credit. This kind of makes up for Dan Quinn's hire because Kliff Kingsbury is going to run an air raid offense. They have the weapons to run it with, especially with Scary Terry, Jahan, Curtis Samuel being that Debo type of player. You still got De'Ami Brown. I think that they should look at a tight end maybe in this draft, maybe somebody legit. If they have a shot at Sanders from Texas, I don't think Brock Bowers would drop out of the top 10, especially after the combine. But yeah, I think it's a good hire. I think it mitigates the, let's just call it a blunder, and kind of what are you thinking for hiring Dan Quinn? You have a good defensive guy in Dan Quinn in the same division that he was in, and Kliff, who say what you will about Kliff, he knows how to run an offense. He did it with K1 his first 2 years. Now, what people are concerned about is the third, fourth year progression, because K1 didn't take that third year leap under Kliff. So, injuries were a part of it and everything. But, overall, good hire. Good hire for the Commanders. As for the Raiders, they go and double back and go to Luke Getsy from the Bears, the guy that just ran the Justin Fields offense for this last year. And I'm guessing they're hiring him off, I guess, the last 8 games, because the first 8 games or the first 10 games, we knew what that offense was like, and it was doo-doo, okay? It was boo-boo, ka-choo, doo-doo, okay? It was not, it's like there was no other way to say that. Why? Because they didn't help Justin Fields at all. Either they were making him too much of a pocket passer, or not allowing him to run. He looked hesitant to run, less than he did the last 8-9 games of the season, where he actually, had good offensive days. He wouldn't pull the trigger on some throws, stuff that doesn't look good on tape. So personally, I think that, is it a good hire? What are you going to do with Aiden O'Connell? What are you going to do at quarterback? That's the key. What are you going to do at quarterback? Because, you know what? Let's actually look at the draft order. Let's look it up. Let's look at the draft order. Because I'm very curious about people that might move up and stuff like that. So the draft order goes as follows. It goes Bears, Commanders, Patriots. We're presumably thinking 3 quarterbacks. Caleb, Jaden, Drake. Caleb, Drake, Jaden. We're thinking there. Then we got Arizona at 4. That's Marvin Harrison Jr., and I'm convinced. You could stamp that as soon as as soon as Drake May or Jaden Daniels goes number 3, they're running that card in for Marvin Harrison Jr. Chargers, you could go Joe Alt, Olafashanu. You can go DJ Turner if you want to get younger on the edge, or Malik Neighbors and get another number 1 receiver to replace, not replace, but like start phasing out Keenan. You could do that. Then you have the Giants. They have a lot of holes, so they can go a lot of ways. Tennessee, another team with a lot of holes. Then you have the Falcons. This is where potentially you can see maybe trading up. Maybe the Falcons try to go after Gerard Mayo's first draft and try to trade up for a quarterback here, with Raheem Morris, or they take a dominant defensive player. They could do that too, or a lineman, even though that line is pretty good. Then you got the Bears at 9 again. So what I'm thinking about the Bears is Caleb Williams, and at 9, like I said, the first 3 receivers are not dropping out of the top 10. Whether that's Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Arizona Cardinals, you got Malik Neighbors to the Chargers. They could go 4, 5, 6. Because honestly, New York doesn't have a number 1 receiver. New York doesn't have a number 1 receiver. So overall, for the Raiders, like going back, they're 13th. So if they want to get a quarterback, I don't think they can. I don't think they can trade up enough to go get one. Maybe with Atlanta to try to take, if they want Bo Nix, if they want J.J. McCarthy. But I think J.J. might be there at 13. I don't think they have to move. Now, you're also talking about the Vikings. They're 2 spots ahead of them in 11. They could take certainly Bo Nix. They could take J.J. McCarthy. The Jets at 10. That's an interesting one. That could be another wide receiver. But if I'm the Bears, like just looking at this, I go Caleb Williams, and you think Marvin Harrison. You have to get lucky, basically. You have to get lucky. You're not going to get Marvin, but you have to get lucky with either Keon Coleman or Malik Neighbors. Because if not, Keon Coleman, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, you got to get one of those after Marvin Harrison Jr. And there only might be one left, and at 7, Tennessee could take a number 1 receiver. So it's tough. That's a tough one for them. Now, they can go defense. They have DJ Turner's there. You look at a guy, Tavondre Sweat, if you want somebody in the middle to support Mason Crosby, But all that, essentially, Kliff is way better at the Commanders. For Luke Getsy, it's all going to come down to the quarterback. It's all going to come down to who are you playing Aiden O'Connell, or are you drafting? Are you trying to bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins? All that, kind of goes into the equation, if you will. The next bit of news we got, going through our scheme here, is the fact that Joel Embiid, Joel Embiid had surgery today. Okay, he had surgery today. He would be reevaluated in 4 weeks. So, what does this mean? Simple. This is going to be all on Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. And it's going to be like this every game. Every game is going to be like that. Because to stay in that top 4, top 5, and not drop out of that top 6 is going to take a lot from them. They're going to face the Bucks. They're going to face Boston. They're going to face Minnesota. They're going to face the West. And they have to keep up. They have to keep up. They lost to Golden State. I believe they just lost yesterday to forgot actually. I saw the highlights and I forgot. But they lost yesterday as well. And what you don't want to do is go into a spiral where you are leaving yourself with very very little room for error when it comes into the playoffs. You want to get some type of home court, some type, whether that's 4, whether, you have to get one of those top 4 spots. And right now it's a battle. Without Joel was scoring 36 a game. This basically seals up that he's not going to win the MVP. Jokic is back at, trying to get his 3rd. He's at the front of that train. Depending on what happens at the rest of this season, I could see Giannis maybe sneaking in there, but the Bucks have to be way better. Even though they're second in the West, they have to be way better on defense for that to happen, I believe. I think public perception right now is that team is just not good defensively. So it's even though Giannis is going dummy, scoring 31, it's not as dominant as usual. I think Shea has a good shot, but I think he needs the number 1 in the West. Because right now, Jokic is 3rd or 4th in the West. It's half a game. Like, we're talking about, pins and needles here for everybody. But I think Shea needs to stay at 1 in the West and dominate the rest of the year. Maybe, more 30-point performances, have the most 30-point performances all year, which he has already. But to keep going, 40-point, big games against big opponents, moments, stack up moments that will, start weighing that MVP vote towards him. Right now it's Jokic, and I don't see a problem with it, to be honest, because Jokic is playing out of his mind. He has Dallas a half a game out of first place in the West. I don't, people are saying Kawhi. They're starting to mention Kawhi, but when you look at the numbers, yeah, he's shooting almost 50, 40, 90 and everything, and he has the Clippers 3rd in the West, but at the same time, the numbers aren't there. 26 a game, that's Jokic is almost averaging a triple-double. You have Luka, 33 points, almost triple-double. Shea, 32. So the numbers won't back him up. The advanced stats for sure. He's shooting 45% from 3, even though he's 24th in attempts. So he doesn't shoot it like Luka or like Steph, but the efficiency's there, and that's what made Kawhi a Hall of Fame player. Besides the runs with the Spurs and Toronto and everything like that, what made him a Hall of Fame player and a top 75 player was the combination of elite defense and absolute efficiency on the offensive side of the floor when he's on the floor, which he has been this year. So, that's a bonus. So for Joel Embiid, I think it's just going to be tough because I think it's just going to put everything on Maxey. Now, we might see Maxey go off again and just start scoring 30 because that's what he needs. But I don't think that'll keep him enough afloat at the top 4 of the East. But we'll see. Zach Levine out for the season with the foot surgery. Hey, now what? I believe that was the biggest piece left in the trade market for anybody who wanted scoring or some type of not 1A, but a score that could get you 25 to 28 to 30 on a given night, get hot, spread the floor, attack, finish at the rim, a self-creator. But now he's out for the season with a foot surgery. So what are teams going to do? Lakers, potentially the Heat. I think the Knicks were in talks. What are they going to do? Because that's one of the biggest free agents taken off the board for this trade deadline anyway. Big contract, so it was tough to get that deal done anyway. It was going to take a lot of picks that probably people didn't want to give to Chicago. But now with that injury, everything's up for grabs. Everybody kind of has to stay put. The deadline's February 15th. We're still about 9 days away from that. So anything can happen. But I don't think Zach is going to get traded, especially now with this injury. Steven Adams, we talked about it last week, but now we have the details. Got traded to the Houston Rockets. He's hurt. For a 2024 second round pick, an additional 2024 second round pick, and a 2025 second round pick. So a bunch of second round picks for the Memphis Grizzlies, just to add depth to the draft, I believe, because they traded for Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you want to get Steven Adams off, he's been hurt the last 2 years, basically all year. I don't mind the move. I don't mind the move. Will he help Houston? Has to get healthy. That's just the bottom line. He's not healthy right now, so he's not even going to play this year. But we'll see. That's another older player for that team that's very young. I hope that Steven next year doesn't take like Tari Eason minutes. That would not be good. Or Alfred Sengun. I mean, he could take some Alfred Sengun off the bench, maybe play that 5, or they can play both on the floor, 5 and 4, and you can have Alfred Sengun be that more of a pivot, Jokic type. But I think it's a good move for Houston. They're not going nowhere right now. They still have a lot of stuff to do. So, Jared Vanderbilt also most likely done for the season. So that's, I mean, if you want to consider it a big blow for the Lakers, it is defensively. The length, just what he provides on the defensive end, the tenacity, because he doesn't provide anything on the offensive end. Let's be honest here. This guy can't shoot, and he won't even look at the basket. So, does it hurt him? It hurts him because of the rotation. They have to put, now you're seeing Max Christie play more and stuff like that. I still don't know why they draft Jalen Hood-Schifino right before the Heat drafted Triple J. They could use a point guard on the floor. D'Lo is a pseudo point guard, but he's more like a 2. Austin Reeves play the 2-3. So, I know he's a rookie and they want to try to go for a championship, which I don't even know how they can even think about that right now. But, at least give the guy a shot. I mean, he's just rotting away in the G League. It's his rookie year, but at the same time, you need scoring, you need playmaking, and now with Vanderbilt down, I guess bring in another defensive wing. Maybe you could do that in the trade deadline. People were talking about maybe Caruso coming back. I don't know how much you would have to give up for him, but all you have, I think, is a 2029 first-round pick. Who the hell wants that? Not the Bulls. I don't think so. I think they want something, especially for Caruso. I think they want something valuable, something they can use in the near future. So, I think the Lakers are in a tough spot, and now with Vanderbilt going down, kind of shrinks their rotation, makes them a little bit less defensive of a juggernaut than they were. But their problem is still scoring. At the end of the day, they need perimeter scoring, they need playmaking, especially once LeBron's on the bench, or they just need Austin Reeves and D'Lo to play out of their minds for the rest of the season. And hoping for that, I think you're hoping it for raining meatballs. That's not going to happen. I don't think so, especially in the playoffs, no matter how many foul calls you get. Yeah. We talked about Luke Getsy and how that's going to pertain to the quarterback position. A little bit on NASCAR. The first event was this past weekend, in California at the Coliseum. And Denny Hamlin won. Surprise, surprise. Not really. Gibbs keeps dominating. Thing that I saw in the race, I mean, it's a short track. We're talking about, this is one of it's a very unique racetrack. So not a lot to pull away from it. In the next 2 weeks, once we get to Daytona, which I think it might be this weekend, if not next weekend, that's when we'll see, even Daytona. Daytona is unpredictable. So we have to get a little bit into the season. But Denny getting that wind under his belt over Kyle Busch, the hometown kid, I think I think it bodes well. I mean, Joe Gibbs has been kind of dominating in the regular season the last few years. The new Camry looks different, has a different nose. Looks more shark nosed a little bit, more jagged at the front. The Mustang looks looks flatter from the front, and I love that Chevy. Kept going with the Camaro and didn't change a single thing. It's the same car. So every other car is different except the Chevys. Carl Larson was doing good. Then he got spun out. Ty Gibbs was doing good. He was in line maybe for his first Cup win, and he got spun out after dominating basically for second half of the race. But shout out to Denny Hamlin. Kind of normal at this point to see him win. Back in the day, he was like, "Oh my God, Denny Hamlin won!" But now with Joe Gibbs and the machine that they have, behind him, it's kind of, he's also an owner of a team, so I think it's okay. He raced good. It was a good move to get the lead with 10 laps left, and he didn't let it go. So shout out Denny. The thing about Real Madrid, so they've been trying to get Kylian Mbappe for the last, number one player in the world, unless you look at Bellingham or Haaland, depending on what your taste. But to me, Kylian Mbappe has been, the number one player in the world since he won the World Cup at 19 years old with France. He was at PSG. Real Madrid has been in talks, to try to get him for the last 2 years. They got a contract done and then it fell through. So he played at PSG again this year. And now they're trying to go get him again. Everything was set and squared away for him to go. And now there's a dispute over wages. At this point, we're just waiting for the deal to be done. I would love Kylian Mbappe to be a Blanco because, one, it's my favorite team in La Liga. And I think that it would add the cachet necessary to, kind of go back to the Real Madrid of old, always having that one ultimate superstar, the guy that that's known across the world. Across the world. Like when they had Ronaldo and the whole Gareth Bale and the stacked team with Benzema. But now with Vinicius Jr. and if they get Kylian Mbappe, that is a hell of a striker group right there at the front. Whoever you want a striker, whether it's Vinicius or you want Kylian Mbappe or you want to use Kylian Mbappe how you used to use Ronaldo on the right, and then use Vinicius in the middle. But I think that they should get it done. They would put a lot of pressure on other clubs. I think in the Champions League, they would, keep threatening for more Champions League titles with a Kylian Mbappe. And at that point, I would lean more towards Real Madrid in La Liga versus Barcelona, which have been struggling a little bit. But, Barcelona's always making moves, too, to try to get good strikers and everything like that, the best players around. But I think Kylian Mbappe going to Real Madrid, I think it's just inevitable. It has to happen. I think he's meant to be a Blanco ever since he was in France. I just looked at him. I was like, damn, that would be great for him to be the heir apparent to Ronaldo at Real Madrid, and we might see it happen. So that's kind of exciting to see as a Real Madrid fan. Now, let's go to the NBA. Let's go to the standings. Okay? I want to talk about some things. The East looks like it's pretty much done at the top. With a 5-game lead, I think Boston secured itself enough of a cushion for them to ride off into the sunset with the 1 seed for the rest of the season, unless it goes catastrophically wrong and you have a giant injury to Jaylen Brown, to Jason Tatum, even Derek White, KP. Unless there is a Drew Holiday, maybe they can survive a Drew Holiday injury. But, overall 5-game lead, Cleveland second. They've been playing absolutely incredible. 9-1, 6-game win streak. The thing about Cleveland is, like I said, like once they got Evan Mobley back and Darius Garland, you're talking about a scorer in Darius Garland and a playmaker because he plays point guard. That moves Donovan Mitchell back to his natural position at the 2, which means he's still a scorer. And then Evan Mobley, what I'm seeing from him is definitely the defensive prowess with Jared Allen, and Jared Allen showing a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball. But what I'm seeing from this group that I didn't see last year, especially in the playoff, is the contribution from the other guys, the Karis LeVerts, the Okoros hitting corner threes that he couldn't even sniff the rim last year. Strus is hitting. Sam Merrill in his rookie year hitting threes. Dean Wade hitting threes. So they have a good supporting cast, especially of shooters, for the lane not to be clogged for people like Donovan to get in, and for Jared Allen and Evan Mobley to be able to work. I see a little bit of growth from Evan Mobley offensively. I like what I'm seeing, but their defense is what holds that team up. They've been playing out of their mind. Do I see it continuing? At this point, I don't see why not. They're completely healthy. They're on a roll. They're scoring 114.8, allowing 109.7. So really, 5.1 differential, good defense, like I said. It's all going to come down to injuries, if any other ones happen, and momentum. Can they keep it going after All-Star break? Can Donovan Mitchell keep going on this tear? And the playoffs is where they get exposed. They got exposed last year with not having outside shooting. That's why they went and got Max Strus. That's why I think Sam Merrill's an undrafted free agent, if not a second-round pick. So you got Dean Wade. Karis LeVert's playing well, which is an X factor because usually, like, if he's inefficient, it's a higher possibility of them losing. If he's scoring at a good clip like he is and being efficient from 3, then it's a little tougher matchup for everybody. But I think Cleveland is doing well. They're tied with Milwaukee at 5 games back. Just Milwaukee has one more loss on the column, and then have one more win on the column. Cleveland has 32 and 16. Milwaukee's 33 and 17. Milwaukee 5-5 in their last 10. Really, they got to show me something. They got to show us something, because to have Giannis and Dame, Middleton, Bobby Portis, the Lopez brothers, Covington, Connaughton. Beauchamp is not really playing. I haven't seen him play a lot. Cameron Payne is doing okay for his backup point guard role. But it is a must at this point, like requisite, to figure out the defensive side of the ball. They can score at will. They can score. If they need to score, they will score. But they need, kind of like Cleveland, need the others to be more efficient, starting with Chris Middleton, start getting back to at least hitting the midi, man. Like at least hitting the midi consistently, or hitting his pop-up threes consistently. Dame has to take over a little more. I think he's just coasting to get to the fourth quarter in most of these games, and then tries to turn it on. I think that it should be more evenly distributed. I think he's putting too much on, not him, but I think Giannis is taking too much during the game. And the strategy of like, okay, Giannis is going to carry us, score 30 in the first 3 quarters, and then Dame, here's the ball, fourth quarter, take us home. If the defense is not in a good mesh and in a good rhythm, and Dame hasn't gotten those looks throughout the game and is in rhythm himself and comfortable, I just don't see how that strategy works. I know Dame is a closer, but Dame is also a 30-point scorer in this league. So, for him to, we're talking about even getting 8 in the first quarter, maybe like a 10 spot in the second. The third, if he gets hot, he gets 12 or 15. And then in the fourth, he can get 8 to 10 in combination with Giannis. Then you're speaking on a good night, 30 points, maybe 8 assists, And if you're playing solid defense, you don't even need to be all world, but if you're playing solid defense, then you should win most games, But Milwaukee, Doc Rivers got to show me something. New York, they finally lost. They're still 9-1 in the last 10, but they lost to the Lakers. Guys, this is the thing. How are you the Knicks? Now, OG out. I get it. Okay. Randall out with the shoulder. Okay. No problem. But you allow a no LeBron, no AD, Austin Reeves 32-point night to beat you at home at the Garden. Why? Why do you let somebody do that? That is it. I mean, you guys shot horrible and they shot great. They shot I think 52% from three. Something crazy that they haven't done all season because they've been brick city from out there. Sometimes you got to chuck it up to good job, They're still on a run, 9-1. They just lost one game. I expect them to keep rolling. Jalen Brunson's playing absolutely sensational. I still think, especially with no Randall, and OG's going to come back, but they need something. And there's nothing out there for them to get. Because once Zach Levine went down, there's really nobody out there that you would go get. Unless, and I've said this before. Now, I don't know how possible it is. I don't even know if Houston will entertain it. But Jalen Green. Huh? Jalen Green in New York? Maybe him and Jalen Brunson, good 1-2 punch of scoring. And then finally Cam Whitmore can get a start. That would be ideal. But I'm just saying, Jalen Green. You can look at a Jeremy Grant, maybe from Portland, a Bogdanovich from Detroit, throwing out there some names, try to get Bogey from Atlanta, some spacing to go along with DiVincenzo. But the Villanova boys, Hart, Brunson, and DiVincenzo are playing great. They're shooting great from three, especially DiVincenzo and Brunson. And they're playing well, man. Their defense is good. Just a little hiccup against the Lakers. What can you do? It's the Lakers sometimes. Philadelphia, 5. 7.5 games back. A game and a half under the fourth spot. Now you're getting into dangerous territory. Now you still have a cushion. 2-6, which is Indiana, a 3-game cushion. Okay, you have a 3-game cushion. You're 7.5 back there at 10.5. So you have a 3-game cushion to try to salvage the 5th seed. However, you're 4-6 in your last 10. You've lost 2 in a row. And when I look at your schedule, I don't think it's getting any easier. You got the Warriors at home. That's today. Or, no, that's tomorrow. Yeah, Hawks you should win. You should. Wizards you should win. Cavaliers going to be a tough game. Heat, based on what the hell we've done, you should win. Knicks is going to be a tough game. Cavaliers again. Bucks, Celtics. Okay, so you have to beat the Warriors, beat the Hawks, beat the Wizards. Get those 3 wins under you. Then take your chances with the Cavaliers. Beat the Heat. Got to somehow fight the Knicks. Go back against the Cavaliers at your house this time. First one is at their house. And then hold your own against the Bucks and hold your own against the Celtics. That's your February schedule. Can you do it? It's all going to be on Tyrese Maxey. Tobias to some extent, Kelly Oubre to some extent, but it's all going to be on number 0. Can he do it? He's done it at the beginning of the season. He did a little bit, scoring 30 and carrying the team a little bit, but without a prolonged absence from Embiid, very tough. Very, very tough when you are the number 1 guy on the scouting report that people are trying to stop. Indiana, number 6. They got Tyrese back. They're 4-6 in the last 10, but Tyrese has only been back like 2 games. Now, they're really easing Tyrese back. And I'm asking myself, why? It was a hamstring injury. It was a strain. I get it. But you kind of have to kick it in gear because now you have both of them healthy, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese. And bringing them off the bench the last 2 games, that's kind of counterintuitive, in my opinion. You start with Nembhard. He does good, manages the game, and then around 4 minutes in the first quarter, you bring in Tyrese. I think you should just start him. Hopefully they do within the next 2 games because him and Pascal have to get a chemistry down at the beginning of the game so they can find chemistry at the end of the game. Pascal's playing great defense. He's definitely improved that defensive unit. They're still allowing a lot of points, but they're still scoring a lot of points. So it's a give and take. I think that it's time for Benedict Mathurin to start over Buddy Hield. More athleticism. He's younger. He could defend better. Not as great as a 3-point shooter, but what a slasher. A finisher at the rim. Imposes his will. Great first step. It's kind of like in the mold of Cam Whitmore a little bit. I think that he brings a lot more to the table than Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield with the spacing and stuff like that. The savviness of an old vet. But I think him coming off the bench would be a better punch than Benedict starting. Just putting it out there. I would like that to happen, but they're 6th. Orlando is only a half game back of them. So Orlando's kind of climbing. Remember when I said, let Franz come back, let him and Paolo get back on the same page, and that defense to start rolling again? I told you they were going to pick it up. Half a game back from 6, 3-game winning streak, 5-5 in the last 10, but that's because Franz just came back, I think, like 3-4 games ago. The thing about Orlando is the more Paolo gets comfortable in his second year, he's averaging 23, I believe, or 20, 22, something around there. But him and Franz, because of their length, because their height, you're talking about Paolo 6'9", 6'10", and Franz 6'9", 6'10". With the combination of, you got Anthony Black, you have Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter Jr., Cole Anthony. So you have good defensive wings, along with Paolo and Franz. And then on the when that comes to the offensive end, you have enough length and height with the requisite amount of skill to score to win most games. Being half a game back of 6 right now is pretty good for them because I think that they're catching their stride again. I think now that Franz is back and Paolo can always look to his left or look to his right and Franz is there, gives him a little bit more space to shoot his 3, to shoot his midi, cut inside, post up. He's not getting keyed on so much by the defense because he's not the only main scorer on the floor. So I think that they're going to get better. If Tyrese and Pascal slip even a little bit, I think Orlando would be right there for the taking for that 6th spot, and they'll get out of the play-in, which would be incredible from what they were literally the last 2 years, which was horrible. Bottom 3 in the league. So it would be incredible for them to get to the 6th seed, and they have the requisite amount of firepower and defensive pieces in order to keep that, to keep it at the 6th seed and, threaten Philly if they slip a little bit. Miami, we're 8, a game back of 7, 1.5 games back of 6, 2-8 in our last 10. Listen, it's literally going to be a broken record all season. Also, it's been a broken record. All season, it's been the same thing. Half-court offense. Absolutely abysmal. Abysmal. I can't tell you how many times with Tyler Hero on the floor, with Terry Rozier on the floor, with Bam on the floor, with Jimmy on the floor, we're settling for last second middies, last second contested threes, barreling into the paint with no plan. You know, we can play defense all we want. If we can't put the ball in the basket in the half court, we're not going to win shit with just transition offense. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. As many as you know, over the top passes that Kevin Love makes, and you know, kick out passes and everything like that. If we can't, one, hit our shots, because sometimes we have open shots and we just miss, or two, be more aggressive on the offensive side of the ball. We're too passive. We have people, you know, beating a closeout and not attacking the rim to get a kick out to somebody else. No, we are barreling into somebody and, you know, oh, okay, but we get the foul, we don't finish. Like, it's not gonna cut it. Not gonna cut it. Regardless if we're the 8th, 7th, 6th seed, it does not matter. Because I think that the East is a lot better than they were last year. Now, you might think that because we beat the number 1 seed last year in the Bucks, and we beat the Celtics, and we beat the Knicks. And essentially, that's what we're fixing this year, unless Cleveland sneaks in there. But we can't score in the half court. All those teams can score in the half court. All those teams have a player or players that you can give them the ball in the half court and say, create. And they'll create. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I know we stopped them last year, but they have KP now. They have Drew Holiday. Derek White is playing better. You got Dame. You got Giannis. You know, even Middleton to some extent, even though he's not himself this year. Again, Brunson. You know, DiVincenzo could hit a 3. Julius Randle could just barrel himself in there. You know, so it's difficult. And then, you know, Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, you know. So I just think that we don't have enough. And there's no trade out there for us. We don't have enough, and we can't add anything. There's zero trade out there for. What can we go get? You want to talk about both Bogdanovich? The one from Atlanta for some spacing. The one from Detroit for some spacing. What can we get? You want to go Miles Bridges? Go get him from Charlotte? What? Realistically, no Zach Levine, of course. Not that we were going to go get him anyway, because we would have been in talks about that already, and we weren't. There's nothing to go get. This is our team. If Jimmy wants to step up and score more, by all means, be my guest. Is it going to happen? Probably not. He's not a volume scorer. He's never been. Even when he needs to be, he's not. So even when we need him to be a volume scorer, he ain't. You know, one would think it's like, oh, he's not a volume scorer, but when we need it, in the regular season, you know, to pull out a win, he can be. Nope. Only in the playoffs. And that's if he's hitting. Most of you guys don't remember, but remember in the Knicks series, he started missing. In the Boston series, the last 3 games when we had a 3-0 lead and then they came back on us, he started missing. And then in the finals, didn't even average 20 points. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. Chicago. 15 games back, 3 games back of 8 in the play-in, 5-5 in the last at mid. Just mid. Definition of mid. The worst joke in basketball. Definition of mid is the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks. I'm sorry. Under 500, 15, 16 games back, 5-5 in the last 10. How many times have I said 5-5 in the last 10 for the Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks this year? I feel like almost every week. Definition of mid. Okay? Oh my God, Trae Young got snubbed. Trae Young might be at 27 and 12, 27, and 11, his averages. But guess what? That team record? Trash. Jalen Brunson has his team second. No, actually, has his team fourth in the East. Damian Lillard, 25 a game. Doesn't matter. Third in the East. It is what it is, man. Tyrese Halliburton, we know what he's doing. He's leading the league in an assist while scoring 26 or 25. So, on good efficiency. Snubbed? I don't think so. You can't win. There's no winning on that team. There's nice highlights. Deep threes. DeJounte Murray makes something. Jalen Johnson is a good player. DeAndre Hunter, showed something yesterday, even though they lost, thank God. But they lost to the Clippers, of course. But mid. Okay, what can they do? Trade everybody. Everybody on the block. Except Kobe Buffkin. That's it. Except the rookie draft pick, first round pick. Everybody else, get on the block. Bogdanovich, Kongwu, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. Everybody. Sadiq Bey. All of them. Get yourself a new team. Throw that shit out. Doesn't work. Same thing for Chicago. Package everything. Get it out of here. Maybe keep Kobe White. Maybe. Keep Kobe and Dalen Terry and those young players. Everybody else, Damar, get out of here. Zach, get out of here. Vooch, out of here. Caruso, out of here. Shit, even throw Lonzo in there. He hurt. He might come back in 2 years. Well, guess what? Get out of here. Mid. Not going anywhere. Gonna get either bounced out in the play-in or swept out of the playoffs. That is your destiny. It's been your destiny for the last 3 years. It's time to change. It's time to do something. Ineptitude. That's not good. Brooklyn. Listen. Sometimes they look good, but they don't finish. That has been literally their story all year. They look good. Cam Thomas, Miles Bridges, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dennis Smith Jr., Lonnie Walker, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal. They all look good. No win. That's it. They have a lead, lose it. Can't get a lead. Stay right there, 10, 11. Can't finish. Toronto, blow that shit up. That shit ain't working. All right. I don't know if Emmanuel Quickly needs more time. I don't know if RJ Barrett needs more time. But you guys are wasting Scotty Barnes. Wasting. Just, unfortunately, he gave you an all-star caliber season and you wasted it. Charlotte. It's time to start putting people on the block. Miles Bridges, PJ Washington. Time to start putting people on the block. LaMelo's hurt again. I love what Brandon Miller's doing. He's showing that he was the right pick at number 2. He can score. He's looking like his favorite player, Paul George. The way he moves, the way he shoots, his decisions is looking like he's going to be a top-tier scorer in this league for a very, 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 very long time. Washington, there is no hope for you guys. Okay, don't even think that there's hope. Bilal Coulibaly, that's your hope. That's it. Nobody else. Bilal Coulibaly. Detroit, talk about a team with no hope. At this point, guys, Bogdanovich, send them out. Monte Morris, send them out. Anybody over 25, send them out. Your rotation should be at the 1, Cade. 2, Jaden Ivey. 3, Asar. 4, James Wiseman. 5, Jalen Duren. That should be your rotation. That's it. And then Marcus Sasser coming off the bench, or if you want to put Cade at the 2, weird lineup with Marcus Sasser, you could do that. But Asar has to play, and Jaden Ivey has to play. Jalen Duren has to play. Cade has to play, obviously. Because, guys, that's it. Season's over. Season's been over. Okay? You guys lost 28 straight. Season's been over. It's time to get rid of those veteran pieces. Moving on to the West. OKC. Minnesota. Tied at the top. 35-15. Okay? 8-2. 3-game winning streak for OKC. 6-4. Minnesota, the last 10. Still have the best defense in the league. It got even better, actually. 106.7 now for Minnesota. Clippers, half a game back. 34-15. 9-1 with a 4-game winning streak in the last 10. Denver, 35-16. Half a game back of number one. 7-3, 2-game winning streak. That's what it's going to come down to, ladies and gentlemen, because after that, it's 5.5 games to Sacramento. 5.5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 are half a game apart. 1 and 2 being tied. 3 and 4, half a game back. And then 5 is 5.5 games back. That's it. Barring any injury, that's your top 4 in the West. That means if you're the 8th seed, I'm looking at you, Lakers, Utah, potentially Houston, Golden State, Dallas, New Orleans, OKC, or Minnesota. That's your round 1. If you're the 7th seed, I'm looking at you, New Orleans, Dallas, Lakers, Utah, maybe Golden State, maybe Houston, maybe even the Phoenix. Hey, you're looking at Minnesota, round 1. The worst matchup is going to be whoever faces the Clips. Whoever's in that 6th seed is screwed. Because they're on a roll. Okay? Defensively, offensively, on a roll. Okay, so same players. You know why it's the same? It's the same teams. They don't change regardless of matchup. Because Sacramento, 5.5 games back. Phoenix, 6 games back. New Orleans, 6 games back. Dallas, 8 games back. LA, 9 games back. Utah, 10.5. The Rockets at 11th. In 11th, a game back, and Golden State a game back of 10. So it doesn't matter because this is going to keep changing every single day of the season, unless there's an injury, like a heavy injury, like a Kevin Durant, De'Aaron Fox, LeBron, Luka, Zion. This is going to keep changing. But whoever pulls one of those first 4 is screwed. Screwed. Absolutely done for, unfortunately. Now, let's talk about OKC. Only thing that they have a question is experience. Everything else, and J-Dub. Is he going to be healthy? I think he is. I think he's coming back soon. But that's it, because Shea can do it. Chet's been playing great, and their supporting cast has so many different layers to it. Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, Lou Dort, Ousmane Dieng, Waters, so many different, contributors that, can keep the rotation going when the starters are out. Giddey, Minnesota, it's all riding on the defense. If the defense stays at that elite of a level, their offense is okay to get going. And then once Anthony Edwards has it going, you just give him the ball. Because that's what happened the last game. First 2 quarters, he scored, I think he was like 1 for 9. He had like 2 points or 4 points. Third quarter exploded for 22. Finished the game with 32. And took over the game. That's Ant. That's what he can do for you. Might start off slow, but if you keep it close, if you allow him to just work his way into the game, when he is off, because sometimes he's on from the get-go, but when he is off in the first half, he can come back, and he has that mental fortitude and that attacker mentality that he's not going to stop, especially when his team is losing. So that's all it's going to ride on Gobert and Cat McDaniels, Nas Reed, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and of course, himself, Conley and Ant to keep the defense up. So on the offensive end, you could get the lobs to Rudy. You can get Cat on a three, on a dump inside, and you let Ant cook once everybody's kind of warmed up. McDaniels though is the X factor. If McDaniels could give you a solid 20 points a game consistently, just 20 or more, but 20 baseline, this team is very, very tough to stop. The Clippers, strongest team right now in the West. 9-1, 4 in a row. I mean, they have a 6.5 point differential, scoring 118.8, allowing 112.3, really good. I think Kawhi is the wheel, the cog that makes this baby turn. Now, the gear within that cog is James Harden. If Kawhi is the engine, James Harden is the drive shaft. Okay? Because his playmaking and shot making ability opens up the floor for Daniel Tice's, the Zubox, which he should be coming back, I think, tomorrow. Paul George to get one-on-ones and start to cook. Kawhi can cook off the ball or on the ball. And with James Harden, those advantages are even more pronounced because then you can get Kawhi on the block and he can post up. Or you can get Kawhi moving off a screen or on a pull-up, and he is super efficient this year. Their transition offense is really good. Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey is putting in some great minutes. Norman Powell still scoring off the bench. Russell Westbrook is still attacking like always. So everything that I'm seeing from the Clippers, the only thing that will hurt them is injuries. Other than that, everything else is good. Good to great. Shooting, great. Defense, amazing. Coaching, great. So everything is kind of lining up to this is the year. Now, they still got to get past Denver. That's the biggest key. And let's talk about Denver. So 7-3 in the last 10, and still, guys, looks like they're cruising. Like they're cruising. It doesn't look like they're breaking a sweat. It doesn't look like they are stressing. No. Strother hasn't played in a while. They're rolling with Braun and KCP and Reggie Jackson. And that's the rotation. Sometimes DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green. Actually, no, Jeff Green is on the Rockets. That's all they're rolling with. It's the Aaron Gordon, Jokic, Jamal Murray show and MPJ. That's what's carrying them. And they're chilling. They're literally waiting for the playoffs. And they're half a game back of the number 1 seed. That's how scary that team is. Super seamless. Like I said, very, very easy. Same thing as last year in the playoffs. We saw the 2-man game with Jokic and Jamal, just very, very, kind of almost lackadaisical. But very sharp and precise, but still kind of lackadaisical in their movements and just very chill. I mean, but they're a very chill team because they take the persona of Jokic. But Mike Malone has them playing really well, and I think that they're dangerous just because they look like they're cruising. They don't look like they're breaking a sweat. Sacramento, 5.5 games back in the 5th seed. People talking about De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis as snubs. But when you look at that roster in the All-Star, in the West All-Stars, it was tough. It's tough to take somebody out. Maybe put in De'Aaron Fox for Cat. It's tough. Sacramento is just going to come down to the defense. They're 6-4 in the last 10. Their offense is great. Their offense, they can score with the best. They're 118.3, but they're allowing 117.8. So their margin of error is very small. It's very small, and because of that, that's the weakness. The weakness is the defensive side of the ball. Can they get defensive rebounds and finish defensive possessions? Not allow second chance points? Can they hold them? Can they force turnovers? Get out in transition. Make the game easier for themselves so it's not so close at the end, especially in the playoffs. Because their opponents in the playoffs are going to be way harder than that Golden State team last year. Even in the 5th seed, you're looking at them in the 5th seed, and they're going to have to go to Denver right now because 4 faces 5. And I don't think you want to do that. I don't think you want to go to Denver. You know, I don't think that's in the cards for them. 4 faces 5. So Sac looks good. They're a tier down from what the top 4 are, but then again, you know, with the difference of 5.5 games and the other, 4 divided by a half a game, you could clearly see that there's a difference in the level of play. Phoenix, 6 games back, so basically half a game back of Sacramento. They've been playing really well, 7-3 in their last 10. I think for Phoenix, more than Devin Booker, it's going to be Beal. I believe KD will be mega efficient this year in the playoffs. I think so. I think that with Beal, with Booker, having the floor spaced out like that and not getting keyed in on as much as he did the last 2 years when he had hurt Brooklyn teams, I think that he'll be way more efficient. This team is going to live and die by Bradley Beal. And then the second thing is their defense. You got Drew Eubanks, Nurkic, you got Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, Metu, Bates Diop. Those people are going to have to play defense. KD can play help defense. Booker's a solid defender. Beal holds his own. It's not like he's a Trae Young. He holds his own. But against anybody else in the West, they're going to face good defenses. And on the other side, they're going to face offenses that are potent enough to give them a knockout punch. So I think KD will be fine. Booker can get his. He's shown that he is that type of scorer, kind of like a Jason Tatum. Beal is going to be the separator of the scores, because I think that teams can stay with them as long as it's just Booker and Kevin. If Beal is at 20, 25 a game, 30, scores 30 in a night where Booker scores 28 and KD scores 35, that's where there's the problem. When they start accumulating for a total of, let's say they, in the playoffs game 1, they give you all 90 points combined. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to deal with. So I think that's what Phoenix is that's why they got Beal, to have that third weapon to get them over the hump scoring wise. New Orleans, six back, tied with the Phoenix. 3-game win streak, 5-5 in the last 10. Hey, we've talked about this. Zion, B.I., C.J. McCollum. Everybody else is good. Everybody else is in place. Shit, sometimes they don't even play Jordan Hawkins. Sometimes they don't play Dyson Daniels, and they're fine. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Valanciunas, Alvarado, they're okay. It's all going to come down to Zion, B.I., C.J. McCollum. If Zion could give you 25 to 28, B.I. gives you 25 to 28, and C.J. gives you 25, 26, 23, then you're fine, because their defense can with Valanciunas, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, their defense, Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, they can defend. Najee Marshall, they can defend. But it's going to come down to, can they score enough? Is everybody going to be efficient? Is Zion going to be his attacking self so he can attack the seams of the defense, get to the rim gets packed, back out to B.I., hitting his 3, hitting his midi, same thing with CJ. If that's going, they can be a threat to anybody. anyone. They're not going to discriminate. They could be a threat to anyone, but it's going to come down to Zion. Dallas 8 back. 4-6 in the last 10. Kyrie came back. They're going to have to find their rhythm defensively. I don't think Derek Lively has played the last few games. He might be hurt. And that hurts them because they have no interior defense. And that's what hurt them last year. You know, that's why they were out of the playoffs last year. And, you know, you put everything on Luka and Kyrie. And although it seldom happens, Luka can have a bad game. He scored 19 yesterday. Thank God Kyrie picked him up. But you can't have that happen in the playoffs. You know, Luka's going to show up. But you need that defense to show up just a little bit. Just enough so that Luka dropping 35 and Kyrie dropping 28 and Tim Hardaway maybe getting 20 is enough. Because if you're just tick for tat, you're just hoping that Luka hits a game winner or Kyrie hits a game winner. That's no way to live in the playoffs. You know, you need defense. You need it. You need it. Number 9. 9 games back. LA Lakers. Listen. 3 in a row. 6-4. Have they turned the corner? I don't think so. I don't think they've turned the corner. I think that they've just seen a silver lining. Now, no Vando, so the defense is going to suffer. But they're rolling with this offensive lineup. They're rolling with D'Lo, Reeves, LeBron, AD, and Taurean Prince, and it's kind of working. It's kind of working. They beat the Knicks with no AD, no LeBron. We talked about that. Now, they've kind of beat up on some weak competition the last few games. They beat the Hornets. They beat the Knicks. They beat the Celtics. Okay. But they beat the Hornets last night. Big game on Thursday at home in LA against the Nuggets. We got the Pelicans at home on Friday. So back-to-back. Pistons, they should murk. The Jazz will be a good game. Warriors inside at San Francisco. Spurs, they should win. Suns will be a good game. Clippers, I think they get murked. And then you got to win the Wizards. So they, relatively speaking, their schedule lines up for them to keep kind of moving up a little bit up the ladder if they're able to win those games. Now, this is all based on the fact that AD is not hurt. LeBron's not hurt. D'Lo's been playing well this last stretch. It looks like Austin Reeves has found his shot again. Their defense still plays well. And, of course, they're always going to get the calls. I mean, come on. It's just what it is. So they're looking better, but it's not like they're going to threaten any of the top teams in the West for a championship. I don't think so. And there's no trade out there for him now that Zach Levine is hurt. I don't. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray supposedly was going over there, but we're 9 days out of the trade deadline, and I haven't heard anything about it or anything like that, so we'll see. Utah 10.5 games back, so a game and a half back of the Lakers for 9. 4-6, they've kind of lost their steam a little bit. That's what happens with a young team. They go through good stretches, bad stretches. The key is, can you be somewhat consistent over the long stretch? And I think so far they've shown that they can be. I mean, they're 1 game under 500. Yeah, they're 25-26. I think that they have to cater to Laurie a little bit, give him more responsibility on ball. He's a great off-ball shooter, but I think he has to use his 6'10", 6'11" size to collapse the defense. He can dribble. He can go inside the lane and attack. So I think that would be better. But overall, when you look at it, I think that they're doing okay They're still not starting Keontae George. I don't know what they're really waiting for. They want to keep starting Colin Sexton. I mean, you can start both of them because, you're starting Kendrick Nunn. I get it, but, or not Kendrick Nunn. Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn. I get it for the defensive, purposes and stuff like that, but I think that you got to start Keontae for the offensive punch to help out Lauri and keep Jordan Clarkson as that 6 man. I think that's your best bet. Bring Ochai Agbaji for 3-point shooting and defense. Walker Kessler's playing well. Maybe start him and Lauri at the same time. Big basically two towers, essentially. One inside, one spacing out the floor. I think that's a good idea, but I'm not worried about the Jazz. They're a young team, but they're doing way better than what we thought, so I'm not worried about them. They're in the 10th seed. Houston, we've talked about this ad nauseum. Start Cam Whitmore. At this point, I would start Amen at the 1. Yeah, Amen at the 1. Cam at the 2. At the 3, I don't have Tari. At the 3, you could keep Darren Brooks there if you want. Derek Brooks. Alfred Sengun at the 4. And at the 5. The thing is, without Tari Eason there, it's tough. It's tough without having Tari Eason there. Or Alfred Sengun at the... You can start all 3. I mean, you could start Jaden Green, Cam, and Amen 1, 2, and 3. Then I would kick... Okay. Let's be realistic about this. I think you go Fred VanVleet for the passing, for the playmaking. Cam Whitmore at the 2. Amen at the 3 for the defensive versatility and the slashing. Number 4, when you get Tari Eason back, that's who you use at the 4. And then you use Alfred Sengun at the 5. I think that should be a rotation. Keep it young. Fred is still there. If you want to put Brooks at your 4, small 4, but you can spread the floor a little bit, still have that defensive tenacity, by all means. You're not that big anyway. So you can run Brooks at the 4 with Alfred Sengun, and then you run VanVleet, Cam, and Thompson. Or you can just roll straight rookie young lineup. You sit VanVleet, although he's on too big of a contract to sit him, which is true. And you go, Thompson, Cam. Just start Cam Whitmore, okay? The bottom line is, start Cam Whitmore. That is what you have to do. Stop giving starting time to Jalen Green. It's over. It's his 4th year in the league. He, his efficiency is not there with you. He's not at the superstar caliber that everybody expected him to be when he got picked number 2 overall. At this point, it is time to start Cam Whitmore. He's giving you more on the offensive end. He's giving you more on the defensive end. He's slashing better. He's stronger. He's longer. And he's the same type of athletic ability. Like, I don't understand why we are, denying Cam the spotlight, because I think he could be the one of that team after Alfred Sengun, but I think he could be the one. I think he could work his way up to being the one. And then Thompson could be that excellent, just either floor general at the 1, he's a good passer, or put him at the 3, defensive stopper, menace on the defensive end, and then a good slasher on the offensive end as his shot gets better. It's not like a Ben Simmons type where he won't shoot. He will shoot. He has the athleticism to get to the cup. But as his shot gets better, you work him in at the 3. I think that's your best bet. Golden State, listen. I'm going to say it once. I'm going to say it again. You wasted a 60-point game from Curry. You lost. It's going to take. And Klay Thompson said that it feels weird that he got benched last night in a close game. Hey, but they won. They won against the Nets. It was a close game. I'm happy that they won. It's going to come down to, I'm convinced now, Curry, Jonathan Kuminga. That's it. If Curry can get off and Kuminga can have an efficient night, they can win some games. If Kuminga's off, if Curry's off, no shot. Because Klay's not shooting his normal self. Draymond still is not efficient. Pajinski can score, but not at the level that we need him to, off the dribble. So he can't create. He's more of a slasher and a cutter right now. Saric is kind of slow-footed. We're playing Quinones. We're playing Santos. It's a Oshkosh Bakosh of faces. It's a plethora of faces that we're playing on the floor right now. And honestly, being a game back of the 10th seed, it seems like we're right there. We're not. We got to hope that people lose and we win when they lose. And right now, every game is a toss-up. Literally. Every single game is a toss-up. It's hilarious to see. It's like, we should win. Lose. This looks like we might lose this game. Win. Like, there's no consistency. The turnovers are awful. God, the turnovers are bad. I hate seeing it because, like, first quarter, you got 4 turnovers, first 5 minutes. Like, that's not winning basketball. That's just not winning basketball. Memphis, you're treading water. But you're treading water because everybody's hurt. So, just keep playing G.G. Jackson. Let Triple J get his points. And, salvage whatever you can from the season. Portland, you guys aren't going nowhere, but you're seeing an improvement from Scoot. Yeah, you're seeing an improvement from Scoot. He's slashing more. He's making better decisions. His shooting splits are pretty good. He doesn't look like the deer in the headlights rookie that he did at the beginning of the season. So he's starting to get in a groove. This is where you start seeing the potential. No shade in Sharp still. Just him and Anthony. I think you should trade Jeremy Grant. Maybe look at moving Malcolm Brogdon. Just saying. Play Murray more. But I like what I'm seeing from Scoot. San Antonio. Hey, man. I guess you're tanking for another pick, and this draft is not heavy in any types of good picks, like good picks. But maybe you can add somebody. Trae Young has shared his standing on maybe going to the Spurs and that he would like to play with Wemby and stuff like that. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But Wemby's playing great, and they're finally giving him the ball, so that's good. Now, to finish off this episode, I want to talk about legacies when it pertains to both teams in the Super Bowl. We all know Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Kelsey, Chris Jones, Spags. But what about those players that, like, a ring would, like, satisfy something in their resume, Or what about those coaches that a ring would really, like, satisfy something in their resume? Now, for the 49ers, we know that is Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan has done everything in this league that you could possibly do. Won NFC championships, one of them lost to the Chiefs, as we know. But I think the guy that has the most to gain in this game, we'll go in order. I think number one is Patrick Mahomes. And the reason it's Patrick Mahomes is because he'll get to 3. He'll get to 3 in 6 years. So that's half of his career starting. He's gotten a ring. It cuts down Brady's to 4 left in not even, 2 years from being 30. Just entering his actual athletic prime, where everything syncs up and they're at the highest level. If you give him another Super Bowl MVP, that's 3 Super Bowl MVPs. I believe that ties Brady as well, because Deion Branch won 1, Julian Edelman won 1. Brady might have 4. And it makes the conversation a little bit more close. Some people might put him over Montana at that point because it's 3 and 6 years. Montana had 4, never lost. He was 4 in a row. It was 4-0. That's why he was called the GOAT before Brady. But overall, I think that with Mahomes getting his 3rd in 6 years, officially it's a dynasty because, the magic number for a dynasty is 3. They're a small dynasty now, or a mini dynasty, I guess you could say. You get the 3rd one, it's a dynasty. And for him, if he has a good game, because he hasn't had a good game in the Super Bowl yet. He hasn't had a 300+ yard passing day, great completion percentage, no picks, 2-3 touchdowns. Like, he hasn't had one of those yet. If he has a signature big performance to win the Super Bowl MVP, he's already on a different level compared to everybody else in the league, but then I think he reaches immortal status in today's NFL. And I think the doubt just goes away. I think everybody's just going to be like they were with Brady. We're like, Mahomes, I'm not going to bet against him. We've seen a little bit of that already after the win against the Bills and then the win against the Ravens. But overall, I think that if he wins this Super Bowl, it gets really scary at the top when it comes to Brady and him. Not about the rings, but the success in the amount of time. The second person on that list is Brock Purdy. First of all, last pick in the draft. That's last pick in the round 7, pick 256, 252. Last pick in the draft. Mr. Irrelevant. In 2 years, not even 2 years, in a year and a half, from starting, getting his opportunity last year, around week 10, I believe, or week 13, week 12, to a ring. I don't know what the conversations are going to be. And God forbid he gets the Super Bowl MVP over CMC, over Debo, over Ayuk, Nick Bosa, etc. For him to do that, he will start like really getting looked at as the next Montana, the next Steve Young. The numbers will be solidified. Best quarterback rating in the history of the historic franchise, with historic GOAT quarterbacks, in their history and legacy. He'll be less underestimated next year. This team will be less underestimated next year. Not that they were underestimated this year. It's just that the quarterback position, nobody knew what they had, especially coming off the UCL surgery. It puts a stamp on the revenge tour from last year that they would have won the NFC Championship had he not gotten hurt, and maybe won the Super Bowl. So it might be even 2 rings. But at the most, it basically it makes John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan look smarter than everybody when they traded Trey Lance, because that was a failed experiment. So, I think Brock Purdy's second on that list. Third on that list, Andy Reid. Andy Reid, with his 3rd Super Bowl ring in the last 6 years. His 4th overall, because he won one in the 90s with Brett Favre as an assistant to Holmgren at the Packers. So it's 4th overall, 3rd as a head coach, 3 in last 6 years. The wins are there. He's not up to Bill Belichick, but he's over 230 or something like that. So he's climbing up there. The playoff wins. As a coach, he would be considered, I think, a top 5 coach of all time. Now, you make the case between Walsh, Landry, Lombardi, Shula, Knoll. You know, you make the distinction there wherever you want. But I think that he would be considered top 5 all time, if not top 3, with a win in the Super Bowl. And also maybe have the distinction and finally the name as the best offensive play caller of all time, because he has been calling plays this whole time. So if he doesn't have that distinction already, if Bill Walsh is still that guy, or you know, you still think that there's better people out there calling offenses throughout the history of the NFL, be my guest. But I think that he will gain, if he wins this Super Bowl, I think that he will have that title by himself. And then overall, the retirement rumors and all that, I think, will stop because he wants to go again. Now, overall for the Chiefs, as an organization, this is not a number. This is overall. It would be 2 in a row, first time since Brady did it. 2 in a row for Mahomes, 2 in a row for Andy. So then the question comes up, can they three-peat? You know? And that is probably the hardest thing to do in sports, just three-peat in football because of everything that has to go right. I think they have a shot if they do win. I think they have a shot to three-peat. But winning 2 in a row in a year that saw the wide receiver struggles, the offensive line struggles, it will be very debilitating for the rest of the league, knowing that they are going to get better on the outside. They are going to get better at the line, knowing that they lost their shot to maybe knock them out when they're weak. You know, the last 2 years, no Tyreek. People thought they were weak. And this year, they seemed very vulnerable. And if they win this year, what you're going to hear... what you're going to hear Patrick Mahomes say in the parade is like, 2 rebuilding years in a row, 2 chips. I guess we're rebuilding forever then. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they were rebuilding and they're world champs last year. Supposedly they were rebuilding more this year with the struggles with Travis Kelce and the drops and the offensive line getting aligned and the false starts and then they win a chip. Boy, I don't know what to tell you, but they're going to be talking that shit. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be talking that shit. The next player that would be very immortalized in this discussion, you can say Kelce, you can say somebody like Chris Jones, but for me, I think it's CMC. CMC, with what he's done in the league, AP Offensive Player of the Year, 2,000 yards from scrimmage, 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing. Like, if he puts that ring on the mantle, with another Offensive Player of the Year this year, most likely we'll see in the NFL honors. But you put this on the mantle, a ring against the Chiefs, and yeah, let's say he wins Super Bowl MVP. I think he cements his Hall of Fame career. Not 10 years in yet, but with what he's done, how productive he's been, he moves to this, he becomes the focal point of the offense, really unlocks Kyle Shanahan's like scheme, allows Brock Purdy to blossom, and everybody else to eat. I think that would definitely put a stamp of approval in his Hall of Fame cap in order to get that gold jacket when it's all said and done. And if he wins Super Bowl MVP, he'll be known as one of the best offensive weapons of all time. That led a team to a championship. Because if you look at that team, he was that key piece. that took him to the next level last year. Like I said he would when he first got traded there. So I think CMC would be a very, very affected player legacy-wise with this Super Bowl championship. Another guy, Trent Williams, probably will go down as the greatest left tackle of all time. There is some players up there, but when you look at, Tyron Smith and Jonathan Ogden, but when you look at Trent Williams, everything that he's done, 16 years in the league, so many All-Pros, All-Pro again this year, known as the biggest behemoth that you could face on the left side of the offensive line, protecting Purdy. I think his 16-year career is already a first ballot Hall of Fame career. You give him a ring, he might retire at the Super Bowl. I mean, he's one of the most athletic people in the league, but he might decide to pull a Andrew Whitworth, a Ray Lewis, and just say, yo, I'm done. This is it. This is all I needed. 16 years in, I'm good. I have the money. All I wanted was a ring. And he went through the tough times in Washington, when they were known as the other team. And to get finally that ring after 16 years, his first appearance, would really stamp that first ballot Hall of Fame resume and let him, if he wanted to walk away, let him walk away with, at the top. Next player, Chris Jones. Actually, no, Travis Kelce. Third Super Bowl. If he's a big part of it, like he's been in the last two, if he's a big part of it, a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 100-yard game, he has a shot at passing Jerry Rice, I think, for most touchdowns in Super Bowls, most receptions in Super Bowls. I think he's close with Gronk and Jerry. So I think that will put up 3 rings. Puts him with Shannon Sharp at 3 rings as a tight end, because he won one with the Ravens as well after the 2 with the Broncos. But 3 rings, prominent part of it, I think that he'll put a stamp on the greatest tight end of all time. He might propose to Taylor, who knows, if they win. But if he's a prominent part, if they can't stop him, if they game plan, these 2 weeks, they've game planned for him, and the same thing happens like it happened in the first half against the Ravens, and he's dominant, he'll be considered the greatest tight end of all time. He could retire whenever he wants. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer in his own wing. I think that it would also kind of put to bed, he's not a blocker and stuff like that. 3 rings, you got to block. 3 rings, you got to block. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Next guy would probably be Chris Jones. 3 rings. If he gets a sack, if he gets 2 sacks, if he's disruptive like he's been in their 2 wins, the last two Super Bowls, I mean, essentially their wins have come because of his pressures. A stop on the defensive side of the ball. He's up there with Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald has 1 ring. He would have 3. And then next year, he would finally be recognized probably as the defensive player of the year. I mean, a guy that has been so dominant. The only guy who gets, we're talking about a few more pressures than him is AD. The last few years, I think it's been him, especially from the interior. He can jump outside at the edge or inside, stop the run. Great pass rusher. I think he'll be considered one of the legends ever at that point. 3 rings, leader of the defense. I think that he would be considered one of the all-time greats at D tackle if he gets this 3rd ring. Next would be Nick Bosa. The prodigal son, the guy that, from Ohio State, the number 1 pick, 2 number 1 picks, Chase Young and him, but Nick Bosa, after, getting a defensive player of the year and dominating for his, most of his career in all pros and Pro Bowls and, 15 plus sack seasons. I think that it would put him in an air with the all-time great pass rushers, especially if he's prominent. Prominent could mean Super Bowl MVP. Then he'd be in the ilk of like Von Miller when he was with the Broncos. Even with the Rams too, because he was effective with the Rams. But Nick Bosa with a ring will give him respect. Really put a stamp on his career. To this point, not that he's done or anything like that, but it will push him up that Hall of Fame career track. George Kittle and Debo. I'm gonna put them both at the same type of level. He would be considered one of the all-time greats as well. He is already considered the all-around best tight end in the league, but with a ring. Maybe if he has like a very legit role, maybe 80 yards rushing, 80 yards catching, or receiving, or like a touchdown or two. I think he would be starting to close the gap between him, Gronk, and Kelsey, maybe a little bit. With a guy with 1,000-yard receiving seasons, including this one, all pros, including this one. He would definitely start climbing the ladder in that respect. And be a lot more feared across the league. Not that he's not feared now, but with a ring and knowing that he was a big part of it. I think that would be a very, very, very nice thing on his mantle. Debo would be considered one of the best weapons in the league, even though he's considered already, but he would be very prominent in the Super Bowl anyway. They want to use him. Him and CMC are basically the cogs of that offense. If he has big game, over 100 yards, 8 catches, 2 rushes for 30, a touchdown, maybe a touchdown rushing, could sneak the Super Bowl MVP away from Brock Purdy or CMC. Would be considered, one of the top receivers, overall weapons, but receivers in the league. Super Bowl champion, respected, stamped as a legit, championship winning player with his blocking and the way he runs routes and, his yak ability and doing it on the biggest stage, getting another crack at the apple. You talk about Nick Bosa, George Kittle. Trent Williams wasn't there, but, Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Fred Warner, like all those are getting the second crack at the apple, the revenge story to come back and win and finally get it. Fred Warner be considered the, best line. He's already considered the best linebacker, him and Roquan, but him and Dre Greenlaw considered the best linebacking tandem in the NFL. Fred Warner would stamp himself in his Hall of Fame trajectory with another All-Pro this year and now a Super Bowl championship. Charvarius Ward would get another chip now against the team that he won it with in the Chiefs. He would win it with the 49ers. That would be a good story. Hargrave going back to back-to-back Super Bowls. He went with the Eagles, lost to the same Kansas City team, to get revenge, and back-to-back Super Bowls for him. It would be big. Chase Young would make the in the middle of the season move from a losing franchise to the Super Bowl champs to win with Nick Bosa. He didn't do much, but it'd be something for him to like, oh, thank God, from number 1 pick to contributing to a Super Bowl. Revenge story for Steve Wilkes at the defensive coordinator position, getting let go from the interim job at Carolina to come here and build a Super Bowl defense after D'Amico leaves and people have questions about what's happening and how is it going to be, and to win a Super Bowl would be big. Ufanga not being able to play and winning a Super Bowl, knowing that he contributed the last 2 years to this defense. As well as Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan living his dad's legacy, putting a ring on the table for the Shanahans ever since the Bronco days with Shannon Sharp and John Elway and TD. Stamping I believe, his Hall of Fame resume as a coach, even though he's young still, kinda. But with a 7th-round quarterback, last pick in the draft, being able to develop an offense that can go win. Building this team with John Lynch. I think that would stamp his Hall of Fame resume. Not first ballot yet, but definitely would get respect at it as his dad did for winning championships and finally show his dad, hey, I got one, Dad. That being Mike Shanahan, and the offense being able to work, his style of offense being able to work, the new style of offense in the league that everybody's using. And then finally, Spags, probably being considered as one of the top defensive coaches of all time, with Wade Phillips and the Dick LeBeaus and people like that on the defensive side of the ball. This would be his 5th championship. So that would be stacking him up too with the Giants beating Brady. And now 3 with the Chiefs. He would be a first ballot Hall of Fame coach for sure. And especially considered one of the best defensive mind and defensive play callers of all time. People will start copying even more of his defenses, with amoebas and exotic blitzes and simulated pressures, and all that. And finally, I would have to say probably, in the line of legacies and all that, Isaiah Pacheco, 2 rings, 2 years. What more do you want? Rookie year, ring. Next year, ring. Especially if it's a big part. If he gets 25 carries, which I believe he will, 20 to 25 carries, I believe that's the range that he will go at. If he's successful, maybe getting 70, 80 yards, maybe a touchdown, he'll be regarded next year as as one of those running backs that, like, when you need it the most, he can get it done. He'll be starting to get maybe some Pro Bowl nods and stuff like that. People are looking at him like, oh, this is one of the big boys in the running back department. If he breaks one, by all means, that'd be great. You're looking at Jerick McKinnon, 3rd ring. Sky Moore, 2 years in the league, barely played this second year with the injuries. That's another ring for him. MVS, 2 rings. With the naysayers of like, oh, he can't win with Aaron Rodgers. How do you expect him to win when he can't catch? Boom, especially if he has a good game or a big catch. That whole young Rashee Rice, if he has a big game, he'll be known as one of the up and coming best young receivers in the league next year, and have a ring to his mantle already in his rookie year. Another rookie to get a ring. McDuffie, also going to be regarded as one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Another 2 rings for him. L'Jarius Sneed would be his 2nd ring, or his 3rd. I think he was also playing with Charvarius Ward that year on the other side. So it might be his 3rd ring. He'll be considered one of the best cornerbacks in the playoffs, especially. Nick Bolton at the Justin Reed. A lot of people would be, kind of immortalized. Harrison Buckner would have his 3rd ring. I believe it was him also into 2019. If not, it was Dustin Colquitt. If he has some big kicks. But overall, the legacies are big. The legacies are big. Shanahan name, the family name, getting another ring. Andy Reid getting a 4th ring. Patrick presumably getting a 3rd ring and a 3rd Super Bowl MVPs, 2 in a row, going back to back in a year that they were supposedly struggling. Will put a real fear into the league moving forward. Even though the divisions, especially in the AFC, are getting even better with Jim Harbaugh and all that, and CJ and AR coming back, and so it's gonna be a big test next year. But I think the legacies are at stake. Big legacy implications. Hall of Fame nods in the future. Hall of Fame trajectories. I think everything is definitely in play for both teams. For Thursday, I will break down the actual game, give you my pick, see if any OC decisions come down. I believe the Cowboys are still looking for a defensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that goes. We'll start getting into draft season, and yeah. But I will give you my pick for the Super Bowl on Thursday. We broke down the legacies today. We broke down a little bit of the NBA, Joel Embiid, Kliff Kingsbury, Luke Getsy, a little bit about the draft. But thank you guys for joining us here at the Exec Talk. The Exec Talk. El Boricua y el Parcero. I'm El Velez. Love you guys. Thank you for all the support. Follow me on El Boricua y el Parcero podcast. Actually, no, it's now the Exec Talk on IG. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Twitter, and in Snapchat. I love you guys. Thank you for all the support, and I leave you with the outro.
Que todos quieren ser, el chamaquito que no pueden entender.